This presentation will discuss a research about work and family, particularly in the first decade of the 21st century by Susan and Melissa. According to them, the intersection of family care and paid work has been the subject of innovative research during the first decade of the 21st century and has also continued to be a hot public policy issue. Subsequently, they funded a scholarship to research on topics such as work and family, which has been initially narrowed down, focusing only on working mothers, which has eventually expanded its scope and coverage during the decade of 2000 to 2010. The review that they have made is organized as follows. First, they describe the three important developments that shaped the field during the past decade. And then the second is they also discuss the best research concerning six topics central to work and family literature. These six topics cover the following: gender, time, and the division of labor in the home, paid work, too much or too little, maternal employment and child outcomes, work family conflict, work family stress and health, and work family policy. Moving on to briefly discuss concerning developments that shape work family field. These two reviewers highlighted work and family issues that receive the greatest research attention that partly reflects economic and policy context of a given historical period. In this regard, they have discovered the following. First, a defining trend of the 2000 to 2010 decade was an increased diversity of families and workplaces. Families increasingly differs from the two-parent, two-child family with a male breadwinner and female homemaker as other types of families, example gay and lesbian families, divorced parents with joint custody. Second, another important demographic trend shaping these studies during the decade was that after decades of dramatic rise, women's employment peaked in 1999 at 60% and then declined slightly in the first half of the 2000 to 2010 decade. And lastly, the third and the final important development over the decade was the creation and growth of communities of scholars focused on the work-family nexus. Simultaneously, after a brief presentation of the developments that shape in the field of work-family field, they proceed with the six related topics, still zeroing in work and family. The first topic that they address is gender, time, and the division of labor at home. Accordingly, they found in their review the following important points. During the decade 2000 to 2010, a number of studies show that men's and women's allocation of time to paid and unpaid work had become more similar, with the gender gap narrowing substantially to unpaid work such as cooking, cleaning, and childcare. There is a smaller gender gap in housework. It was a result of an increase in men's time, but also a large decline in women's time in these activities. In gender perspective, there was an increasingly invoked by those who viewed men's changes in the home as small, especially in comparison with women's changes in the marketplace. And in some types, most notably those that remain males sole breadwinner, men are used to work for a longer total number of working hours being paid compared to women unpaid. On the other hand, the second topic that they have given emphasis is paid work. And the question being raised is, it is too much or too little? A father's long work hours were negatively associated with the breadth of activities he did with his children. Less time with a spouse, lower marital quality when he felt high role overload, and less positive involvement with adolescent children. Further, with higher earnings are more often resided with their children throughout childhood compared to fathers with lower earnings, increasing inequality in children's life chances. Moreover, the third topic that they underscore is maternal employment and child outcomes. They also pointed out the following: children of employed mothers were better adjusted, example, lower hyperactive scores, more prosocial behavior, less anxiety, but also had fewer positive mother-child interactions, read less frequently with a parent, and spent long hours in non-parental care. Types and for the child care, types of available child care varied by location. Parents in metropolitan areas and higher income communities had greater access to center-based care than parents in other communities. While we have discovered the effects of maternal employment to childcare, now we dive into maternal employment and adolescent outcomes. There are studies that show positive effects of maternal employment and low income preschoolers. There are also accumulated evidences claiming that maternal employment might be negative for adolescents in low-income populations where mothers were transitioning from welfare to work. And evidence suggested that the increased responsibility for younger siblings has been translated into lower school performance of these adolescents. Furthermore, let us also talk about the non-standard work schedules and family outcomes. On the positive side, mother work evening evenings rather than daytime hours. Fathers were more involved in childcare, spent more time with children, and were generally more knowledgeable about their children's lives and activities. Evening work interfere with parental activities with children, such as helping with homework and having dinner with the family. But parents who work at non-standard time spend more overall time with children and had more time alone with children than parents who work standard daytime hours. While on the negative side, young children whose mothers working with non-standard schedules, particularly in the first year of their life, had lower cognitive development and use less impressive language than the children of mothers who work with standard schedules. There is an increase of maternal stress among low-income mothers with non-standard work hours, less effective parenting, and more behavioral problems for children in families where parents work with non-standard schedules. Marital disruption increase when either the husband or the wife work at night shift. Following the pros and cons on non-standard work schedules and family outcomes, significantly, the fourth topic is about work-family conflict. In this section, they consider the following theoretical refinement and the linkage of social status antecedents and culture context to work-family conflict. First is concerning trends in and theoretical perspective of work-family conflicts. Some trends such as more time spent with children in the later era, more egalitarian gender attitudes, and increased job rewards were linked with lower conflict. Countervailing trends are linked to higher levels of work-family conflict, increased labor force participation and education levels for mothers, and more time pressure on the job over this period were more pronounced. Linked to the role theory, the job demand resources perspective was used to shed light on the specific occupational conditions that either contributed to difficulties, example, job demands that conflicted with family life, or to solving problems, example, resources that aided work-family balance. Let us also underline the following concern with respect to social status and work-family conflict. Research has indicated that women experience more family to work conflict than men, but assessing gender differences in work to family conflict was complicated. This is supported by many studies indicating that women and men felt equal levels of work-family conflict, with major national surveys showing the same percentages of employed men and women experiencing work-family conflict. Having presented to you social status and work-family conflict concerns, let us now draw our attention to antecedents of work-family conflict. Job have both demands that might be associated with more conflict, particularly when decision making control is low, and resources such as flexibility that might be associated with solutions to work spill over into family life. Specific work antecedents that were linked to higher conflict included job stress, particularly overload, high job involvement, and more work hours. With all this consideration of some points regarding antecedents of work and family conflict, additionally, let us also give emphasis on work-family conflict, cultural considerations. The relationship between gender and work-family conflict varied across different countries. Studies examining ethnic differences expanded knowledge about how culture and ideology influence people's experiences of work-family conflict. Meanwhile, let us also discover the topic about family to work conflict and facilitation. It explained that family structures influence women more so than men. For women, having a young child and unemployed partner was associated with favoring work-family balance, which in turn predicted geographic restrictions on work, whereas these factors did not influence job preferences of men. Moreover, having a non-employed spouse only helped men's careers. Similarly, we can also learn something about work family conflict research using a life course perspective. The work family conflict literature could be strengthened if it more often took an explicit life course perspective. This perspective increases recognition that there are periods in life when more work family conflict should be expected, such as when there are young children in the home and all available adults are in the workforce. Whether this is a single mother living alone or a dual earner couple or some other arrangement. After we have learned about work family conflict related topic, we give stress to our fifth topic, which is all about work family stress and health. In these situations, work family experiences shape mental and physical health as well as the self-concept and largely through three avenues: the structure of work, conflict between work and family, and not enough work. These are given prominence in the two main ideas, namely, the first main idea is all about work family stressor and mental health. The structuring of work is important for the mental health of family members. Work hours per se did not seem to have a strong link to mental, but the time of day and week that people work matter for work family spillover and health. While on the other hand, the second idea is all about work family and the self concept. Indeed, mastery or the sense of control that people feel over the important things in their life is tightly linked to mental health. Mastery was also important for achieving career goals but was contingent on structural constraints from family life. By and large, having given stress to work, family, stress, and health, we also underscore the sixth topic that gives more concerns on work family policy. Hence, work family policies receive increased attention in the 2000 to 2010 decade, with research taking a decidedly more nuanced approach to the empirical investigation of policy contexts. Whether work family policies are few as effective depends on the desired outcome, with labor market outcomes only part of the nexus. More time with one's own children may increase family well being, even though it erodes labor market outcomes of the individual parent. The final analysis, after every topic and subtopic have been thoroughly exhausted, they gave a short recommendation to sum up and give a comprehensive conclusion that may call our attention as I quote. As we look to the future, just as the demographic context of the past decade, the growing diversity of families and workplaces, and concern about the stagnation in maternal employment has greatly influenced research topics. Work family research in the next decade will need to expand in order to consider work family issues later on.